Hi, this is Olliemathews, and this is part 8 in my series, My Life with Narcissistic Parents. After my last video, I received a couple of questions through Facebook, private messages, wanting to know were there any other authorities involved, police, child services, what have you. No, not with me. Well, yes and no. Not for me. I had said earlier that I was the type of kid that didn't much get into anything. My mother told me to sit, I sat. My mother told me to stay, I stayed. To go, I went. My brother, on the other hand, he's about 5.5 years younger than me, almost 6. He was a different story. And my brother ended up being the golden child for much of his youth. But that question made me think about it. And it made me realize, because once I thought back on the interaction with authorities, I remembered that my brother wasn't always the golden child. When my brother, from the time I would say he was 6 months till just about a little older than 2 years, my mother would beat the hell out of him daily because he never listened. Like at that young, I wasn't getting hit. I was only like getting yelled at. He was getting hit because he was always doing something he wasn't really. Not really. I mean, he was just a kid. But I remember how she used to hit him. And she was like one of those syllable hitters. With every word she'd hit him. Like, when I say no, I mean no. And every time she's hitting him. And then he'd cry. Because normally she wasn't paying attention, so we'd get into something. Well, because my mother was so negligent, my brother kept getting injured. My brother had to have his entire chin reconstructed with plastic surgery because they weren't paying attention to him. And he crawled behind me while I was at my uncle's house, and I was playing bumper pool, and my brother had crawled behind me, and I fell back on top of him because I didn't know he was back there. And my father sees this, and his first instinct is, oh, well, here's another opportunity for me to beat him and from me in front of the family. So now he's coming to beat me, and to my Uncle Kenny's credit, he stepped in and he's like, it wasn't his fault. Now meanwhile, my brother's on the floor with his chin cracked open, bleeding all over the place, while these idiots try to figure out who to beat. And I think it was my Uncle Freddie, who's my grandfather's brother, said, Jesus Christ, somebody get him to my brother to the hospital. And I had to reconstruct this whole thing and plastic surgery. So that was one trip to the hospital. Another trip was my brother ate an entire bottle of baby aspirin because my mother wasn't paying attention. She was downstairs on the telephone, which was my mother's thing. My mother was always on the telephone with somebody, from phone call to phone call to phone call, yapping, gossiping. But she never paying attention to my brother. So now she finds him. He's upstairs. He's eating an or she didn't even find him. My brother came downstairs and said, oh, I wasn't feeling good, so I took some aspirin. She's like, oh, how many? And he said 2. And everything that my brother was 2. She went up there, the whole bottle was gone. Had to take him to the hospital at 2 years old, have his stomach pumped. Another time he drank kerosene, doused himself in it, drank it, took him to the hospital again. Nobody was paying attention. That one was on my father. My father wasn't paying attention. Then my brother broke his collarbone. Why? Because he was trying to get my mother's attention. He was running around. She was on the telephone. Once again, he tried to play. He was trying to tell her, I'm going to jump, I'm going to play. Like, he wanted her attention. He went, jumped over a stool, broke his collarbone. Again, about 2.5 years old. He was repeatedly injuring himself due to my mother's negligence. There's another one I know I'm forgetting, and it's probably going to come back to me. But here's to the greater question. Were the authorities ever called? Oh, I'm sorry, I know the other one was. My mother was ironing, the phone rang once again, she left the hot iron. My brother goes, grabs the iron, 3rd-degree burns on his hand, on the palms of his hands. That was the other one. This is all, between, I'd say, the ages of 1 and 3 with my brother. All these injuries. So what had happened was, the hospital had records of all my brother's injury. Keeps getting injured. It's always negligence. Finally, the hospital notified DYFS, Division of Youth and Family Services. That's, child services in New Jersey. And the caseworker told my mother, and mind you, this is in, 1978, 1979. This is still in the late 70s, early 80s maybe. Late 70s, early 80s maybe. So you could still kind of get away with stuff as far, it's not like it is now. And my mother even admits that if she was a mother now, she'd have been in prison. But they wanted to remove Michael and me from that house. And I think my father did some fast talking because he's the ultimate salesman. And I guess back then you could do that. You see an affluent white family, big house, it's just really. And they told her, if he gets injured again, we're taking him. They didn't say anything about me. My mother never laid a hand on my brother again. And that was the switch for me, like when it really got bad for me. Because now she couldn't lay any hands on him, so now it was going to have to come on me because the state was on her ass. And what they did was, at that point, because I wanted out. I wanted out of that house. I wanted somebody to come and rescue me. So what they did was, they said I didn't clean my room. I don't remember exactly what they said. They said I did something wrong. And this is right after this. And they said I was a bad boy and they were sending me to Boys Town. And I'm like, well, what's Boys Town? Oh, well, it's this bad place for bad boys where bad things happen to you and they're telling me they stick things in your coolie and they touch you and you get beaten every day. This is what they tell me. This is what they tell me. My mother, really. And if I say anything, that's where I'm going to go. If anybody ever comes back, that's when they're coming to take me, and they're going to ask me a question. If I say anything bad against them, that's where they're going to send me. They're not going to send me to any place good. They're going to send me somewhere bad. And from that day on, my mother never touched my brother again. Because she couldn't. She couldn't risk having him get injured again. She couldn't risk it. And I think maybe that also set her off, because she is such a negligent asshole that she actually had to pay attention to my brother at that point. Because if she didn't, it was going to be really bad if he had to go back to the hospital again. And he didn't for a while. He didn't. But it didn't slow them down on me. It didn't slow her down. I mean, she was already... And by that time, they had figured out the dynamic of making him the golden child, using him to gaslight me, and so that built a whole nother dynamic. So to answer, the questions, the couple questions I had about it, authorities, the family was on the authorities' radar. My father talked his way out of it, and it actually exacerbated things for me, because now my mother was panicked that the state was going to come in, probably remove us both. I didn't know. Definitely my brother, but probably. And she traumatized me. They traumatized me with this whole Boys Town story. I couldn't have been older than... I was like 8 or 9. I had to be like 8 or 9. So I'm 6 years. I was like 8 or 9. I was no older than 9 years old. It's bad. It's bad, but that's why I'm doing these videos. I'm sure, I'm getting messages, stories similar, and people are relating to it, so it's a good thing. And I really don't care who knows, and I want people to know, and I hope it helps. I'm going to wrap up this video, and I'm going to make another one real soon, and thanks for watching.